Okay, so this is class 4 of our 4-class series, and you've done such an amazing job of working through some of the foundational melt moves. And so what my plan is for you for today is for you to have a little bite of neurostrength and another little bite of the Pilates repertoire that they've built into the melt method moves. And so they'll start off looking rather familiar, and then all of a sudden we're going to add something a little fresh and a little new for you. I always love to start with a foot treatment because I feel like that gives you this sense of body awareness. It gives you an opportunity to rebalance your body. It just makes your feet feel great. And anything that we do, uh, whether it's hip against the roller against the wall or arm and hammer, or anything that you do, your foot treatment would always precede any of those techniques because it helps you get your whole body into alignment. I'm just going to change out the position of my camera. I feel so smart that I know how to do that now. Okay, and let's go ahead and have you stand. We're just going to do a mini softball treatment just in the interest of time because we've got other things we want to do this morning. I'm just going to start with my feet about hip distance apart. My arms are by my side. And I just want you to come into your body. You're welcome to close your eyes and just get a sense of how your body feels. And I love this because instead of letting your chatty verbal brain take over, you're just feeling the way you feel. So I want to know if you feel like one foot is a little heavier into the floor than the other one. Just ask yourself if you feel like your body weight is back on your heels, as mine is this morning, or are you noticing that you're forward on the balls of your feet? Investigate whether or not the body weight is on the outside of the foot in line with the pinky toe or more towards the big toe mound. You could track up your shins, think about your knees, ask yourself if the kneecaps feel like they're pulled back against the joint. And if they are, then you'll notice that there's some tightness in through the thigh, the quadricep, and also through the gluteus muscles, that those muscles are working a little hard in order to keep you in this position. And they don't need to. We need to use our internal stabilizers to do that, which we're going to be working on today. Okay, so let's have you go ahead and take your right foot onto the ball, right into the center at position number 1. And I'm just going to tip my body weight from side to side. I miss my poolside location for my melt method this morning. Settle both feet down into the floor. I'm going to bend my knees, rotate my spine, and swing my arms around. You're welcome to bring your arms up over your shoulder, up over your head, if that feels comfortable for you. But if you don't have great shoulder mobility, then I would keep the arms a little bit lower. Come on back up when you're ready, and let's take the ball back into position number 5, where I'm going to take a focused breath and press my body weight onto the ball at 5, hold it for a breath, and then ease my body weight back onto my left foot where I go right into my glide. Gliding is that 2-directional move, just massaging across position number 5. And then what you want to do is move your foot forward so that you're massaging the ball onto your heel and then coming back into position number 5. Send a little bit more body weight onto the right foot to shear the tissue, breaking up dry fluid that just kind of accumulates right here in your foot, and then send that body weight down onto your foot for another focused breath as the cells adapt and change. Go ahead and take your foot off the ball, bringing the ball up to the big toe mound. So Julie, what you could do here is you could put a little pressure on that big toe and go ahead and send that big toe out to the left a little bit. Just send some weight on there, take a focused breath, and then push the ball over towards the pinky toe. And then bring the ball back to the big toe mound, give it a push, and then send that big toe out a little bit, and then bring it over towards the pinky toe. So it's a little bit of Katie Bowman and Sue Hitzman fusion this morning. So I do that about 3 or 4 times, and then I'm going to send the ball from the big toe mound back towards the heel as I rinse the bottom of my foot. You're doing such a beautiful job. Make sure you're looking across the room here. You can check out your foot for a moment, then your eye gaze comes up across the room, and then go ahead and roll the ball back to the heel. Do that for each knuckle and long bone, and then go ahead and do it just a few more times anywhere you like. When you're ready, ladies, go ahead and do a little friction. Let that thigh shake. Avoid the temptation to push your left hip out in order to stabilize your body, it would be better even if you needed to touch the countertop or a chair or have your roller out in front of you. And then from here, go ahead and bring your right foot down onto the floor. You could take a moment and just see if you're moving in the right direction. I just feel way heavier now on my right foot and I'm not on my heel. Go ahead and take the ball under the left foot at position number 1 and go ahead and tip your body weight from side to side, finding tolerable pressure, softening through that plantar fascia. Just noticing how it feels. And remember, if it's painful, lighten the load on that foot, or you could do a position point press. Just take the ball into position 5, press it in there, take a breath, and then try coming back into position 1 again. See if that feels better. From here, both feet are coming down onto the floor. We bend the knees, rotate the spine, swing your arms around. And come on back up when you're ready. From here, we're going to take the ball back to position number 5, take a focused breath and press. So this would be position point press. And then you ease your body weight off of the ball and go right into the glide, coming across position 5, moving the ball onto your heel. And then take the ball back into position number 5, sending a little bit of focused weight onto your left foot to go into the shear technique. And then hold your body still and take another focused breath. Take the ball out from underneath your foot at position 5, and then bring the ball up to what's called position number 2 at the big toe mound. So again, just to remind Julie, if she likes that, she can take that ball into the knuckle and then just give that big toe a little pull towards the right. Go ahead and push down on the ball and then bring yourself over into that pivot so the ball comes over to the pinky toe. Lighten the load to bring the ball back to the big toe mound, give it a little press and pivot. And do that one more time. Usually the melt method is in 3s. I just love this one so much I could do it all day long. So go ahead and do one more. And then we'll go ahead and do the rinse down the bottom of the foot. So I'm going to take the ball back to position number 2 at the big toe mound. Look across the room as I step forward. And that stepping forward just keeps that body weight nice and even on the bottom of my foot. Keep the rib cage over your foot as you step forward. I'm actually picking up my right heel as I move my body weight forward, and do that for each knuckle and long bone. And then just go ahead and do it a few more times wherever you like. This is just pushing the fluid back towards your heel. And then from here, we do friction. So friction is when the fluid actually comes up into all those sexy lines of connective tissue. And then when you're ready, take the ball underneath your right foot for a quickie friction. And then take the ball away from you and stand with your feet hip distance apart, toes pointing straight ahead, and just come back into your body for another assessment. So just close your eyes if you like and just come down into your feet. Notice that the body weight is ideally located on both feet evenly, and that you feel like you have more or less that triangular weighted space on your feet where you feel the weight across the ball of the foot, the side of the foot, and back towards the heel. You could travel up your shin, think about your kneecaps, and notice if the knees feel a little bit softer, a little bit more neutral. And if you do feel that way, then chances are pretty good that the quadricep muscle and the gluteus muscle, the thigh and your butt, will be a little bit more relaxed as well. And that's so much better for your nervous system. Your body doesn't want to hold that muscular energy just to hold yourself upright. So you're getting into a different system. And that's why Sue Hitzman calls this a rebalancing technique. Okay, so that was that. Come on back down onto the floor. And let's change that camera. Super, okay. So I'm gonna give you a little quickie tutorial on the psoas muscle. There's a woman whose name is Liz Koch, and she has spent all of her career working on the psoas. And I just love this little book. It's tiny, but it's jam-packed with great information. And I think anytime we talk about, like if you go on a trip, right? The first thing you want to do is, where is that? If you're going to go someplace in Spain, where is Valencia, Spain? Anyway, you look at a map. Well, when we talk about anatomy, I always think it's a good idea to know where it is. So today we're going to talk about the psoas muscle. So obviously this is the spinal column, your pelvis, and your femur bones, your leg bones. And you can see this pretty muscle that goes right from this spot on your spine all the way down to your leg. I have a hard time with curling irons too, by the way. And you can see it connects from the spine all the way to the leg. That muscle is called the psoas. The psoas is the only muscle that connects the leg to the spine. And this muscle originates actually at your 12th rib. So the connection of the rib cage to the leg, excuse me, through this muscle. This is a major stabilizer of your body. It's a major core stabilizer. It's often called the iliopsoas because this muscle is called the iliacus, and they sort of blend together as they come down and insert into the inside of your upper thigh bone. That muscle, I always like to tell people, if you were a cow, it would be the filet mignon.
Yeah.
So that muscle is very juicy, it's very supple, but in a lot of us, and I think especially more so women, it can get very tough and it can get very dry. So we've talked about how the connective tissue can go into and around the muscles. Well, in this particular muscle, it's prone to having a very dry connective tissue that encapsulates and goes into that muscle. And that can lead to a lot of issues, not only with that muscle, but with the rib cage, the low back, and the leg. So we're going to actually feel that in yourself today. If you notice that you're getting a lot of cramping in that leg, like you'll feel it just kind of fire. You'll just feel it fire. You'll know that it's dominant and that it's probably overused. Okay. And so it would be better if you could feel the core engagement, the muscle that wraps around the waist, the transverse abdominis, as opposed to this gripping of the psoas. And we'll talk more about that as we move into what's called the single leg lift, which is done after the rebalance sequence. Okay. This muscle is part of the fight, flight, or freeze. I always kind of get tangled up in that. When you have any stress in your life, that muscle will go, it just kind of tightens up on you and it gets ready for you to run or freeze. So it's part of that stress response. And so if it's always on, it's exhausting for the nervous system. And I always tease people and say, I actually know what that feels like, because when I'm driving my car, my husband can be like hypercritical of, you went through that light, or, you should have stopped here, or you need to turn here. Why did you go this way? And I'll feel those hip flexors just go, just grip up. So what sorry?
Tell him to stick with airplanes.
I've actually pulled over and said, well, you can walk if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's sort of like hyper controlling that way. Anyway, so it's an amazing muscle to get to know. And I did find something that I thought was, oh, can I read this to you? Okay. Although there is a common perception that a muscularly rigid core is analogous with a strong core, and that muscles hold the body up against the powerful force of gravity, it's actually the spinal vertebrae's weight-bearing capacity that results in a healthy, powerful, and resilient core. Ultimately, what allows the spinal vertebrae to bear weight efficiently is a supple, dynamic, and responsive psoas. I think that's so interesting that we think about having a strong core as something that's muscular and, kind of tight and rigid, like that six-pack ab. And indeed, that will help create this girdle of strength and stability. But it's also the suppleness, the responsiveness of the psoas. The psoas isn't intended to be engaged all the time. It needs to be responsive to your movement. And that's what you're going to discover today in class. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and have you start with an assessment on your back. So your rest assess. And as you're moving, you're welcome to ask any questions or share any comments that you have about the psoas, the iliopsoas today. Don't be shy. And I'm going to stay right here and just keep my eye on you as we do that rest assess. Super. Okay, so as I've said before, if you have any pain while you're doing your your assessment is done. You look beautiful, Barbara. Arms are nice and long by your side, palms are turned up towards the ceiling, legs are long, and just take a moment to come into your body. Give yourself permission to take some time to give yourself an assessment. Ideally, the shoulder blades are feeling wide and flat and heavy on the floor, but if you're noticing that you can feel those little bony bones on the mat, then you've got some stuck stress around those shoulder blades, and that's going to interfere with the mobility of your shoulder joint, could give you some headaches, could give you pain that radiates down your arms. From here, take a finger, poke it into your belly button. Draw that line straight through your body, and before your line hits the mat underneath you, you bump into the bottom of your rib cage. And ask yourself if the bottom of your rib cage is ideally located as a mass and weighted to the floor. And remembering, as we talk about the psoas muscle, this is where it starts, at the 12th rib. So you can take your finger out of your belly button and just know that if it's arched away from the floor, then you are putting a little extra wear and tear on that spinal column. And I would say you're giving that psoas a little bit of a yank. You're kind of pulling it a little bit tighter than it needs to be. From here, think about the pelvis. Ideally, the body weight is located on your butt cheeks, but you might notice that it's more on the back of your pelvis or maybe on your tailbone, like it's a little higher than the butt cheeks or a little bit lower. So just get a sense of where that is. And know that if you're not in that neutral alignment on the butt cheeks, then you could be putting a little extra wear and tear on that psoas muscle. And if you want to, just take a second and put your hands over where you think your hip bones are, your hip sockets are. Your hip sockets, yeah, they're on the top of the leg. And so your psoas muscle is coming from that low back curve at the 12th rib, and then it comes through the pelvis and it comes over the top of this hip socket, which I find fascinating. It's a very strangely oriented muscle. And then it will travel towards the inner thigh at the back of your femur bone. Okay, go ahead and bring your hands back down onto the floor if you will, and just think for a moment about the hamstring muscles, about the backs of your thighs, and ideally those muscles are weighted to the floor. So just get a sense of how you feel about that. You might notice a change here today. From here, you divide the body in half, right and left, and just notice if you're feeling longer and heavier on one side. That's the autopilot assessment. So ideally, the body nervous system is recognizing the location of the joints of the body and the pelvis. And so if you're feeling longer and heavier on one side, then you're noticing that your body's having a hard time finding the center of gravity. The other thing I'd like you to notice while we're lying here, and it's a weird one to think about, if you take your hands back to where I noticed where you had them before, like on that hip socket, yeah, put your hands back on your hip sockets at the front. I just want you to think about the length that you feel here. As the psoas gets tight, this area of the body actually feels like it cinches up a little bit. And as we work today, what I'm hoping that you'll notice is more length here at the top of the leg, which is kind of a weird thing to experience if you haven't thought about it before. So just give yourself a chance to just notice how you feel. If you can't really put it into words, just take a little mental snapshot and then let's move on. So from here, roll over into a shoulder, come on up to sitting, and let's get you on your roller. Okay, actually, before you get on the roller, let me do just a little quickie demo for you today. I'm going to use my round roller and I'm going to do the rebalance sequence. Let's pretend that I've gone through the rebalance sequence and I'm on to a technique that's called the single leg lift. And I'd like to just give you a little quick demo so that you can see what it looks like. Okay, I'm gonna push myself into the corner so you can see my feet. Okay, so just pretend I've done my whole technique and now I'm moving on to the single leg lift. This technique is great to give you that sense of that core contraction, but I'm also thinking that it will help you see if you get a little bit extra firing in that psoas muscle here at the top of the leg. And you might notice that this feels more intense than the core. And that'll give you an idea that this is becoming too bossy and too dominant. And we want it to be supple and responsive We want this to be the muscular stabilizer. Does that make sense? So far, so good. So my arms are going to be by my sides, but just the tips of my fingers are going to be onto the floor. The back of my shoulders are going to be nice and heavy, and I'm going to remind you of all this stuff as we go. I'm going to take my left heel off the floor, and I'm going to inhale to prepare for movement. I'm going to exhale to engage my core. Shh. And here's where you're going to take the ball of your foot, and you're going to lift it off the floor by flexing the ankle. So I want you to notice that my knee height didn't change. Oftentimes when students move through this exercise, instead of flexing the ankle, which is what I want you to do, they lift the knee. And that's an indicator that the psoas is dominant. That's one indicator. So the psoas goes, well, hey, this is the way we always move, so this is what I'm going to do. Instead, I want you to think about your ankle. So the idea with this particular melt move is to help you fire through the core. And you're going to notice when you do this that there might be a tendency for you to tip over to the right side. You might arch your back as a compensation. You might hike up your shoulders. You might really dig those fingers into the floor. Just notice how you feel. And then we'll bring that foot back down. Then you'll do it again on the other side. Again, I'm just going to flex my right ankle to lift up, but everything stays nice and relaxed and neutral. Then we'll go ahead and do the same exact thing, but you're going to bring your hands onto your body. Now, remember the roller is round, so it's going to move. Exhale, and I'm going to flex my foot, and I'm just going to stay right here. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. So you can see one side's a little harder for me to do today. And I'm also noticing that I'm getting a little bit more of a flexion here, a little bit more of a contraction in through the upper leg. And then we'll go ahead and do it one more time. So we're going to do this in an attempt to help you find the core contraction through the body at the midline, the core contraction at the midline. And that's what Sue Hitzman is really all about. She wants you to find the core. That's why she's doing this. But what I think about, not only the core contraction, but I'm also thinking about the dominance of the hip flexor, because it seems it's so prevalent in women. So it'll give you a chance to feel that. Does that make some sense to you? Okay, let's give it a try. So you come onto your roller, and we're going to start with just our basic, take a moment, let the back of the shoulders get nice and heavy, the collarbone gets wide, palms are down on the floor. Good, and I love your position, Martha, because I can see your feet. Nice job. Palms are turned down. Barbara looks good. Okay, great. So from here, when you're ready, just turn your palms down, Martha. Yeah, there you go. And just let the back of the shoulders be nice and heavy. Collarbone is wide. Your head's completely supported by the roller. And we'll start with gentle rocking. So just tip from side to side. Everything moves. That looks beautiful. Try not to feel any twisting. Just keep that roller on. Just keep the spine on the roller. No twisting. So Martha, I can kind of see that, especially on that right side, that right hip kind of pulls up towards your waistline. So just let the roller stick to your spine. There you go, that's better. Nice, good job. So it might even be a little smaller than you had imagined. Good. Come on back to center when you're ready. Find a balanced and centered place. Take your hands on your pelvis, the heel of the hand on the hip bone, the fingertips to the pubic bone. Good, and let's go into the tuck position. The low back curve comes down onto the roller. The tips of the fingers lift up, and you can feel the low back on the roller. You can feel the thoracic spine on the roller. And then from here, let's go into the tilt position, the opposite, arching the back away from the roller, lifting the low back, lifting the ribs away. The tips of the fingers will drop, the heel of the hand comes up. We just do this to explore those two ranges of motion. Go ahead back into your tuck. And now we want to find that neutral alignment. So you're thinking about the weight on the rib cage and differentiate that movement from the movement at the low back curve. So just take the low back curve away, but keep the ribs down. Nice, good, 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 beautiful. That looks so nice, Martha. Bring your fingers to the floor if you'd like. Go ahead and reset your pelvis, just a quick little lift and lower, and that'll get you more onto your tailbone rather than the back of your pelvis. Again, this is me, not Sue Hitzman. So just feeling the weight of the pelvis now evenly on the roller, Nice little lift through the low back curve, and you can feel the thoracic spine weighted to the roller. Are you with me so far? Yeah. Okay. So let's do the 3D breath breakdown and the 3D breath. One hand to the belly, one hand to the chest. And just a nice simple inhale and exhale. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And ideally, what you're feeling is both hands are moving as you breathe in and out. Sometimes it's just a belly breath that you feel, sometimes it's just a chest breath. Just notice. Also, in this position, you're noticing the ribs are moving up towards the ceiling, excuse me, and back down into the roller. So there's this expansion. And then when you're ready, hands come to the sides of the rib cage, elbows drop down to the floor, and inhale to expand the ribs out into the sides of the room. And remembering that oftentimes people can get a little tight and sticky here. Barbara sent me a nice little note. She said she did the video from last week and she did hip side bend. And I thought, oh, I wonder if she got more expansion in through the ribs. When you do the side body, it doesn't matter if it's hip or rib. It's really nice to get that rib cage to open out. Nice job. From here, one hand to the throat by the collarbones, the other hand way down to the pubic bone. And now you're just exploring the length of the rib cage. So as you inhale, you should ideally notice that the hands are moving away from the middle of the body. Sometimes people say, yeah, I just feel it at my chest. I just feel it at my pubic bone. Just notice what you feel. From here, both hands go onto the belly. Now, this is especially important today because we're adding the neuro strength move, and you want to be able to recruit that deep core stabilizer. So we're going to be inhaling to prepare for movement, and on your exhale, I want you to engage the core. So you're sinking your belly button into your body, and you're going to give me a noisy breath. So it's a shh or a s or an HA, whatever works for you. But I want you to get a sense that you can feel that connection. You can feel that tightening, that cinching in of the waistline. And then when you find it, go ahead and turn off your noisy breath and see if you can't recruit those deep core stabilizers without slowing down and making that noisy breath. See if it just happens a little bit more automatically. Okay. So as we move into the single leg lift, which is your first neurocore exercise, your first neuro strength exercise, I want you to be particularly attentive to your breath. And I would recommend that you use that noisy breath, that slow, noisy breath. So let's bring your fingertips down onto the floor. It's just the tips of your fingers. The back of the shoulders are relaxed. The collarbone is wide. And even though I'm asking for just the tips of the fingers to be on the floor, avoid the temptation to hike up your shoulders or tighten anything. Keep it all very relaxed. And again, the word responsive is such a great one. Just everything be relaxed and kind of neutral here. I want you to think about your feet and how they feel on the floor, and then focus your attention on your right foot only. The right heel is going to lift away from the floor. The right ball of foot is going to stay down. Beautiful. You're going to inhale to prepare for movement, and on your exhale, engage your core. Sink your belly button in nice and tight. Shh. Feel that core contraction. And then from here, flex the right ankle so that the ball of the foot lifts away from the floor. So the whole bottom of the foot is down. Now, just the tips of the fingers are on the floor. Just the tips. Good. And notice how you feel here. Notice if you feel your body weight kind of tipping over to one side, as you saw me do when I picked up my right foot. Notice if your fingertips are pressing into the floor. Notice if you're arching your back, hiking up your shoulders. And then lastly, notice if you're feeling a contraction at the top of the leg where that hip flexor might be. Go ahead and bring the right foot down, and let's do it again on the other side. So just take it step by step. Try to listen to the cues. Don't rush. From here, the tips of the fingers are on the floor. Everything is relaxed in the body. You're as neutral as you can be. When you're ready, lift the left heel away from the floor. Hold that position as you inhale to prepare for movement. Give me that noisy exhale, shh, to engage the core, and then flex your foot to let the ball of the left foot come away from the floor. So that foot should be about an inch away from the floor. And just notice how you feel. Notice if your body tips a little bit. Notice if you arch your back. Notice if the fingertips are pressing heavy into the floor. Notice if you're feeling a little tension up in that hip flexor. Go ahead and bring that left foot down on the floor. And now we'll take the hands onto the torso. So now we can't use the fingers into the floor to help you stay on the roller. So it's a little bit more challenging here. So the first thing that we'll do is lift the right heel away from the floor. You're going to inhale to prepare for movement. And on your exhale, dig that belly button right into the body. Shh, give me that noisy breath. And then flex that ankle. And then flex that ankle. Oh, shoot, where did you go? Are you still there, ladies? I can hear you, but I can't see you anymore.
Yeah, I'm laughing.
Yeah, I just got a phone call, and so it just bumped me out of my visual here. Ah, damn it. Oh, darn it. How do I get back to you? My meetings. Let's see if
We
that
can
happens.
see you.
We can see you.
Okay, just go ahead and settle both feet onto the floor and let me figure out what to do here. Oh, that's so silly.
Did it take your video off?
It did.
No. You.
Yeah. That's so weird. Let's see what happened. Oh, there you go. I got you. Okay, great. So your hands are on your body. You're going to go ahead and lift that right heel off the floor for me. Your elbows are off the floor, so nothing's touching the mat. So you're going to take that right heel off. Good. Inhale to prepare for movement. Exhale to engage the core. Sink that belly button in and float that foot off the floor. Nice. Good, Martha. Good. Nice. It's going to be tricky, so don't worry about it. Go ahead and bring that right foot down. Let's do the same thing now on the left. The heel is going to come up on the left side. Exhale to engage your core. Float the ball of the left foot away. Just flex through the ankle. And you're noticing if you're wiggling around. You're noticing if you're arching your back, hiking up your shoulders, noticing maybe a little tension in through the top of the leg. Go ahead and bring your foot back down. We're going to do it one more time. The tips of the fingers are going to be on the floor. Shoulders are relaxed. The heel comes up on the right. Exhale to engage the core. Sink your belly button in. Float that right ball of foot away from the floor. And just notice if it feels a little bit easier to do that now. Go ahead and bring that right foot back down. Same thing left side. Heel comes up on the left. Exhale to engage the core. Float the left ball of foot away. Just notice how the body responds. Bring the foot back down. Gently rock from side to side. You did great. Come back to center, lengthen a leg. Slither off the roller on that same side. Push the roller away and lie on your back. So what did you think? Did you notice that it was a way lot easier as you did it the third time? Yeah, right? So that's you're turning on the core of the body. You're giving yourself time to turn on the deep core stabilizers of the transverse. Yay, nice job. Anybody notice that they felt a little tension on the upper thigh?
Well,
Yeah, that.
it was kind of in here.
Yes, 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 yes. Yep, that's it. Yes. Yeah. How about you, Barbara? Did you feel anything in the upper thigh?
You know, not really. I was
Okay.
surprised because I used to have so much problem with my hip flexors.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel anything there.
Yeah. Okay, great. How about you, Miss Julie? Yeah, okay. Okay, so just do a quick reassessment while you're here. Palms are turned up towards the ceiling, arms and legs are long. So ideally the shoulder blades feel wide and flat on the floor. We did do a little neurostrength today. So sometimes your body goes into old patterns of behavior. So don't be surprised if you don't get the kind of assessment that you were hoping for. Take a finger, poke it into your belly button, draw a line straight through your body. We're looking for more weight on the rib cage. Anybody find that they have a little bit more weight on the ribs, or does it feel like it's hiked up? More weight on the ribs, raise your hand. Nope, hiked up for Martha. Okay, good to know. Yep, I'm not surprised, Martha. Okay, go ahead and travel down into the hips. Ask yourself if you're feeling like you're more in your butt cheeks than you were before. Raise your hand if you're feeling like you're on your butt cheeks. Yep, yep, good, good, good. And then the back of the thighs, ideally they're resting on the floor, but we know that that's a tricky one to change. And that one we might get to in the next move. Divide your body in half, right and left, and just notice if you're feeling longer and heavier on one side of the body. Just notice how you feel. Ideally, the body is working a little bit more efficiently and your balance will be improved because of it. Okay, so from here, let's go ahead and have you roll over to our shoulder and come on up to sitting just for a moment. Okay, so I asked you to bring either a flex band to class today or a bathrobe tie if you have one. And I'd like to go through and just give you an idea of what we're going to do next. So I'll just do like a really quick little demo. This one is called hip to heel. I'm going to take my jacket off and maybe a little easier to see. And it's intended for you to feel the length of connective tissue from obviously your hip to your heel. And I've added a little bit of mat Pilates. It's just a leg circle. And then I created a little exercise that'll help you get some more length into the hip flexor, and it feels very relaxing, really comfortable. I'm going to use my round roller, and when we first learned some of these techniques, that's all we had was the round roller. And I've since decided that actually the half roller is a much nicer tool for this technique. So if you have the half roller, you might prefer to use this one. It's a little bit more comfortable. And one of the disadvantages of doing this on Zoom is that those of you that don't have the half roller don't get a chance to borrow one. So just know that we do have that option and you might like to get yourself one someday. Okay, but I'm gonna go ahead and just use my round one. So I'm gonna change the position of my camera and let's just do this. Okay. So we're going to take the hips up onto the roller and I'm going to ask you to take your band and you're going to put that at the bottom of your foot. I'm going to go ahead and start with my left foot since that's closer to the camera. And to set this move up, I want you to be basically in this position. You're going to have your knee right above your hip socket and you're going to be in sort of a tabletop position in through that shin. Most importantly, I think, is to have the upper arm resting on the floor. So I don't want you to feel like you have to hold your arms up. You want to be relatively comfortable. And the way I'm holding my wrist is also comfortable. I don't want you to flex the wrist, but have the wrist long. Shoulders are nice and relaxed. Collarbone is nice and wide. And on your exhale, I want you to lengthen out this leg so that it's about a 45-degree angle. I always think that the thighs are parallel to one another when you start. The rib cage is nice and heavy on the floor and you're going to be in a neutral position through the low back curve. And what I want you to do from here is start to lengthen this leg up towards the ceiling without changing the low back. So oftentimes people bring this leg up to the ceiling and they end up coming into a tuck so that they think the idea is to bring the foot right up to the ceiling, but it's not. The idea is to feel the length of tissue from the hip to the heel. And I'm going to do that very subtly as I bring this leg up. There's going to be a place where I go, ah, there it is. That's the length that I'm looking for. I'm attending to the connective tissue at the back of the leg from hip to heel. Those of us that hyperextend the knee, you know, you pull the knee in to stabilize the body, you might feel like you want to soften your knee just a teeny tiny bit. Some people that hyperextend are going to feel the work in through the quadricep. And I want you to keep it nice and soft so you feel it through the back. So this is basically what we'll do. We'll go ahead and do a few breathing here. I'm going to have you go in an external rotation here. I'll have you step away a little bit with that right leg and we'll do a little heel to hip cross. We'll talk about that as we go. And then we're going to do a leg circle, which is from your mat Pilates. And then finally, we'll do this little cutie that we're going to do a leg circle that's got a shorter lever. And this is the one that creates a lot of length through the top of the leg. It really helps the psoas be nice and juicy, relaxed, and fall back towards the spine rather than being lifted towards the front of the body. Okay, that might not make too much sense to you, but Well, hopefully as we do the assessment, you'll be able to understand what you've done and how your body is feeling as a result. So let's have you come onto your back. Now, Martha, you have a half roller. I'm so happy. Good. So especially for somebody that just went through that assessment and said, you know what, my rib cage feels like it's arched up. So important for her to use the right tool. I'm going to have you take the roller the other way. So the flat side is up towards the ceiling. And for those of you that are on the speaker view, you might like to be on gallery view so you can see other people and how they're moving. Just might like to do that. So the roller is going to be flat side up. And when you're ready, go ahead and bridge up. That looks perfect, Martha. So she's got the roller right underneath the back of her pelvis. And in this position, Martha, just pay attention to how the ribs feel. I don't want you to feel like you're hyperextending your spine, but you want to have a little bit of weight. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Everybody looks good. So far, so good. So we're going to take the right leg in towards the body, and you're going to bring your strap to the bottom of your foot, right there at the arch. The arms are going to settle right down into the floor. Good, Martha. Nice. So you're not putting any extra strain on your shoulders. You want to have your knee right over your hip. And then Martha, I'm going to be a little picky with you. I can see, yeah, there you go. The roller isn't flat towards the ceiling. It's actually in a tuck. And you might need it to be that way, but let's see if you can get it to be a little bit flatter. Good, that looks good. And Martha, just bend your knee a little bit more so that your shin is parallel to the ceiling. That's it. That looks beautiful. Good, good, good. And Barbara, have you already gone into the move, or did you bend your knee and get started first? Barb, go ahead and bend your knee for me, and we'll just do this all together. Bend your knee. There you go. Good. Okay. Everybody looks good. So the band is going to be kind of, snug, but it's going to help you support the leg. So everybody's nice and neutral. Collarbone is wide. Ribs are heavy. You're in a neutral alignment through the low back curve. You're going to exhale and lengthen that right leg out so that the thighs are even side to side. Good, Kathy. That looks great. Perfect. Nice. Good, good, good. Okay. So in this position, you could even ask yourself, if you're the type of person that hyperextends your knees, you might feel that the quadricep is a little tight and grippy here. So if you need to give it a little softness, you can do that. From here, what we'll do is we're going to bring this right leg a little bit higher towards the ceiling. Go nice and slow, because I don't want you to tuck your pelvis. I want you to just move the leg a little higher towards the ceiling and still feel like you've got a nice little lift through the low back curve. And we're going to find the length of tissue that goes from your heel to your hip. Does everybody notice that? Kathy, can you find that back line tissue?
Not sure.
Okay, so you're the one who kind of...
Oh, I feel it.
Okay, good. Make sure the foot feels very flat towards the ceiling, and that's going to help you engage that back line too. Upper arms are resting on the floor, so you don't have to work too hard. And that strap might be a little short, Barbara. That might be why I'm seeing that. Okay, so once you find that back line length, all you do is take 3 focused breaths. So you'll inhale, and as you exhale, engage your core. Give me that noisy breath. Feel that length of tissue. Imagine that you could pull that heel even further away from your body towards the opposite side of the room at the ceiling. 3 of those nice breaths. From here, you're going to externally rotate this leg. So the leg is going to turn. That's it, Martha. Beautiful. It's going to turn so the toes are pointing to the right. Keep that leg a little straight, Kathy, unless you're trying to keep that out of your quadricep. Good, that's it. 3 breaths here. Inhale and exhale. And every time you exhale, the heel is pulling away from the hip.
Cramping in my quad.
Okay, soften that knee a little bit. So that'll tell us that the front line is dominant for you, and that psoas could be part of the problem. Okay, good. Thank you for that information. From here, the left foot is going to step a little further away. Sorry, from the roller. There you go, Kathy. Good. It's a little further away from the roller, just to give yourself a little bit more room. There you go. Perfect, Martha. Nice. And from here, I want you to think about the back of your pelvis and how it's weighted to the roller. Keep that weighted to the roller and allow the right leg to cross a little bit across the midline. There you go. Good, good, good. Kathy, both butt cheeks are going to stay down on the roller. So don't let the back of the pelvis shift too much. You're just giving yourself a little stretch on the outer side of the thigh. Can you feel that? 3 breaths here. Nice inhale and exhale.
Pulling my toes back towards my head really makes a difference.
Good. That's great. I'm so glad that you noticed that. 3 breaths from here, just stretching through that outer hip, gluteus medius, minimus, tensor fascia lata, coming down into the IT band. From here, return the leg towards more the start position, and we're going to go into a leg circle. So exhale when you're ready, bring the leg towards the left leg, circle down and around, and back up towards the ceiling. And as you do this, avoid the temptation to make the circle too big. Make it nice and small so that you can keep the back of the pelvis weighted to the roller. The pelvis should not move, just the thigh bone, just your femur moves. Come on back to the start position, and let's do this again in the opposite direction. I'm going to be particular about your breath pattern here. You'll inhale to start, exhale to circle away from the other leg, down and up. I want you to inhale to stay, exhale to circle away, down and lift. And one more time, a quick little sip of an inhale, exhale to circle the leg down and away. Good, bring it right back up. From here, bend the right knee and take your strap or your band to the hamstring muscle, to the back of your thigh. You're going to shorten that strap up. In other words, you're going to hold a little closer towards the leg. Great. So this is the really cool one. I love this little exercise. From here, Martha, that roller looks very flat. So it looks like you're kind of in a tuck position. Good, there you go. And it could be that you're looking for that as you're moving through this exercise to avoid the temptation to go into an arch.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is very revealing. So the other exercise I had you start in this tabletop position with the shin, not so this one. Let the heel be heavy. That's it, Julie, heavy towards the back of the thigh. Good, 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 nice. And you're holding one strap with one hand and the other strap with the other hand. There you go, good. I want you to have a relatively, Kathy, move that right knee a little further away from your chest. And you too, Julie, a little further away from the chest. So it's right over the hip socket. Beautiful, good. Good, you're getting there. From here, lighten the weight of the left foot on the floor. It's still on the floor. It's just light. And you'll notice the pelvis get heavy. Can you feel the difference? If you push the left foot into the floor, the pelvis gets light. And when the foot is light, the pelvis is heavy. I want the pelvis heavy on the roller and the foot is light. From here, it's a leg circle, a nice inhale to start. And on your exhale, engage your core, hold that core engagement, and let this right knee circle in towards the left, down and away. And as you're doing this, you're pulling into the strap and the thigh is pushing into the strap. Lots of cues, I know. Inhale, exhale to circle, a quick little inhale. And if that heel, Barbara, is migrating away from the back of the thigh, then we know you're compensating. Let that heel be heavy, heavy, heavy to the back of the thigh. Barb? Good, nice. Reverse the direction and give me 3 more. Inhale to start. Exhale to bring that right leg out and away and down and back towards the left. You're pulling into the strap as you're pushing the leg into the strap. So it's a little push me and a little pull me. Come on back to center. Go ahead and take that right foot to the floor and let's do the same sequence over on the left side. So we started by taking the strap to the bottom of the foot. we'll go into the melt length technique called hip to heel. Start by bending that knee so it's right over the hip socket. The upper arms are resting on the floor. You're holding one strap in one hand, the other strap in the other. The knee is bent and the shin is parallel to the floor. Checking your alignment, that the roller position looks perfect, Martha. Nice flat roller if you're using the half roller. There's a little lift through the low back curve, but you can feel the weight of the ribs coming down into the roller. When you're ready, I want you to exhale and lengthen that left leg so it's at about a 45-degree angle. Both thighs are kind of the same height. Beautiful, good. And you can use this position to start. When you're ready, you want to keep your mind's eye on your low back curve. You don't want that to change as you let this left leg come a little bit higher towards the ceiling in your attempt to find the hip to heel back line of connective tissue. One leg might be a little bit juicier than the other one. You might get it a little higher to the ceiling. It really doesn't matter. All you're doing is assessing the tissue at the back of the thigh. Remembering that if the leg comes too high, the tendency is to steal that length by stealing the space at your low back. So make sure you have that low back curve. If you need to, as Kathy noted, really think about flexing the bottom of that foot, and that'll give you that hip to heel length. If you're noticing that it's in the front of the leg, you might be the type of person like me that has a tendency to go into that hyperextension of the knee. So soften the knee a little bit and see if you can find a little place where it feels like it's relaxed at the front of the leg, but tense at the back. Does everybody have it?
Yes.
From here, it's just 3D breaths. Inhale, exhale to engage your core. Make it a noisy breath, pulling that heel away from your hip every time you exhale. Inhale and shh. And one more. From here, we'll externally rotate the legs. So the toes on the left will point to the left. Everything rotates, but the pelvis stays exactly the same. Beautiful. From here, inhale and exhale for 3. This is the spiral line of tissue that is in the leg. It feels very different here in this position. The heel is still pulling away from you. As you exhale, shoulders are relaxed, rib is still flexed into the floor, your face is relaxed. And from here, I'm going to take that right foot and I'm going to walk it away from my roller a little bit. Just gives me a little bit of space, kind of gets that right thigh out of my way. And I'm going to keep the back of my pelvis perfectly glued to the roller. And I'm going to let this left leg cross the midline of my body. It doesn't need to go very far, just cross the midline of the body. Kathy, stop right there. So the butt cheeks are weighted to the roller. Good. Can you get a little stretch on the outside of the leg? Is that what you're noticing there? Inhale and exhale.
Stretch in the back of my leg.
Yep, okay, that's fine. That's your hip to heel still. Inhale and exhale and give me 3 breaths here. Just noticing that length, pulling on that leg. After your 3rd exhale, bring the leg back to the start position. And we'll go into our leg circle. So here's the deal with the leg circle. If you'd like to explore that light foot over on the right side, so you get the pelvis nice and weighty to the roller, that would be a good idea. You also want to have a minimum amount of rocking through the body. Everything stays still except for this left leg. So let's try. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to engage the core first. Hold that core engagement as you circle the left leg towards the right, dropping it down towards the floor and back up. There you go, good. Inhale to stop. Exhale to circle the leg, coming down towards that left leg, coming back up. Inhale to stop. Exhale to engage the core and circle the leg. Stop right here and let's go in the opposite direction. Inhale to stay. Exhale to circle the left leg out wide. Coming down and around. Good, nice. These look beautiful. The hip is very stable. The ribs are weighted to the floor. It's just the thigh bone, just the femur that's moving inside that hip socket. Everything else is staying relatively still. After 3 of those circles, go ahead and bend that left knee, and let's take the strap to the back of the left thigh. So we're doing a little neurocore, a little neurostrength. We're doing a little mat Pilates today. So this is the tricky one. If you notice that your heel keeps pulling away from the back of the thigh, that's a clear indicator that the psoas is a dominant muscle for you. So let that heel be nice and heavy. The knee is going to come right over the top of that hip socket. Good. And you could step that right leg in a little bit. Are we? Yeah, there you go. Good. I think that looks lovely. And again, a light foot on the right side to keep the back of the pelvis nice and heavy against the roller. We'll inhale to prepare, and on your exhale, it's another leg circle. You can circle in towards the right, down and around, and coming back to center. Don't forget you're pulling on the strap as you're pushing the thigh into the strap. Good. That little push me, pull me turns on the glute fibers and gets you out of the hip flexor. Give me 3 of those little circles. Everything is relaxed. And then reverse the direction. Inhale to start. Exhale to circle around. Good, Martha, that looks great. Coming back to center. Inhale to stay. Exhale to start the move. Only moving on the exhale, only moving once you've found that deep core stabilizer. Stabilize first and then move. Coming back to center when you're ready. You can let go of the strap, bring your foot onto the floor, bridge up, take the roller out from underneath you, and let's assess. Lengthening out those legs. Let's see what we got going on today. Now, sometimes with neurostrength, it can be kind of a tough sell. Your body goes, hey, I've been stabilizing this body for years in this particular inefficient way. And so it's not so easy sometimes to get it to change, but let's see if we've noticed anything. Palms turned up towards the ceiling, arms and legs are long, coming into the body. So raise your hand if you feel the shoulder blades are wide and flat and heavy on the floor. Beautiful, good. Take a finger, poke it into your belly button, draw a line straight through your body and assess the weight of the rib cage. And notice if the ribs are weighted to the floor. Raise your hand if you feel that weight. Okay, everybody except for Martha, right? Okay, traveling down into the pelvis. Notice if the butt cheeks are weighted to the floor. Raise your hand if you feel the butt cheeks are on the floor.
So much more.
Okay, so much more. How about you, Martha?
Yeah, more.
More, okay. And then the back of the thighs, anybody noticing the back of the thighs feel a little heavier today? Yeah, I was just gonna say, Kathy, they look like they're pretty good. Okay, now this is that weird assessment. Anybody noticing they have more length at the top of the leg where the hip socket is?
I think so.
How about you, Martha?
I think so.
Isn't that weird? So that's the psoas that we've just given a little bit more length to. Very, very nice. Good job. And divide the body in half, right and left, and just notice if you're feeling a little bit more even from side to side. So it seems like the only thing that I need to change is Martha's rib cage. So if you want to, why don't you go ahead and take the round roller underneath the back of your pelvis. And let's do, gosh, I always think of it as like a child's pose or the shell stretch, but you're facing up rather than facing the mat. But you'll just take the roller to the back of the pelvis. You go ahead and bridge up. There you go, nice. And let those knees just come right in towards your chest, Martha, just right in, nice and heavy, right? So now she's getting this flexion through the spine. She has a tendency to get stuck in extension. So we're giving it the spinal column flexion here. Does that make sense? Yeah. And everybody seems to like this anyway. This is a very relaxing position. As a matter of fact, in this position, your psoas comes heavy down towards the spinal column. Everything just relaxes. You're kind of in a fetal position. It's just a really great protective position. And again, when we talk about the psoas, we're talking about this muscle that responds to stress. It holds on to stuck stress. And so this is probably a primitive way to ease tension in the body. Another way to ease tension in the body, particularly through the psoas, is to take a bath. And you come into this fetal position. Of course, you're sitting up and your back is against the tub. And you hold your knees in towards your chest and you can gently rock the body from side to side. So you can simulate that here by just letting your knees get just a little bit heavy from side to side. Rocking also seems to de-stress the fibers of the psoas muscle. Great. So if you've had trauma in your life, if you've had emotional or physical trauma, the psoas muscle can hold on to that for years unless it's released. Come on, back to center when you're ready. Let's take your feet onto the floor, bridge up, take the roller out from underneath you, and let's see if that's enough to give Martha a little bit more connection to the floor in through the rib cage. And Martha, take that roller right out from underneath your knees so you can really figure that out. But I do have another idea for you. Okay, so sometimes when people come onto the floor, even after all of these little tricks, and they still feel that the rib cage is lifted. How about you, Martha? How are you feeling?
It's better, but it's yeah, I think we'll see the navel is below the rib cage for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's still a little bit lifted. So here's another trick. I want you to bend your knees and take your feet to the floor. And everybody can do this. That's fine. Just bend your knees, take your feet to the floor. Let your hips be heavy on the floor. Are you noticing anything now? Does it come down?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So to me, it's tension in the hip flexor. So when we bend the knees, the hip flexor is just in a different position here. It's flexed. And when you lengthen the body out, you're pulling on the hip flexor and it lifts up the rib cage, because now we know, right, that the hip flexor attaches to the 12th rib. And so it's pulling that up.
Okay, so the hip flexor, is that part of the psoas?
Yes, please. Yes. Hip flexor, psoas, iliopsoas, it's all the same. It's all the same. Yeah. Okay.
So that's a tight psoas then.
So it's a tight psoas. And sometimes people are using the psoas as the deep core stabilizer instead of the transverse abdominis that's wrapping around the body. And so the psoas gets very tight and muscular and dry. And so what we want it to do is be a little bit more responsive. And so some of the exercises that we did today are intended to make that change. Okay, but again, for some people it can be a tough sell because the nervous system is under stress and it just says, no, I'm not going to let it go. I'm not ready. And so just play with it a little bit and see if you can't find some changes there. That would be really cool to notice. Yeah, if you've had some trauma and you did have an accident, right? So it could be that it's a little stuck there. I want to thank you so much for class today. How was that?
Great. That's something I've wanted to know. You know,
It was
Good.
awesome.
Good. Okay.
I really appreciate having that awareness of the psoas.
Great. Okay, so what we'll do is, how about if I create a couple of options for you for another series? You can think about what you want to do. And I'll also send you some information about the Happy Body Project, and you're welcome to call me and we can talk about how we can use your strengths from your Strengths Finders test, if you took that, and even just talk about you. Like I just feel like I know Barbara so well that it's almost easy to help her put some strategies together because we've spent so much time together. But it's fun. It's really fun to do. And Martha, if you haven't taken the Clifton Strengths Finders test, I would recommend that you do it. It's like $20 to take the test. It's, I don't know, a number of questions. You do it online and they send you the results right away. And it's actually really fun to see how different you think. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's worth paying a little bit more to get all of them, because to me, it was just as fascinating to find out what my bottom 5 were as it was my top 5 were, because it's all about balance. Yeah, you might learn what you're really good at, but you also need to know what you're really not good at, in my opinion, so that you can sort of not go there and stay happy.
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
good point. I didn't think about that. I'll have
Yeah.
to look up to see what my bottom 5 are now.
Yeah. And I think once you've taken the test, you don't need to take it again to get all of the strengths.
Right.
So it's already hidden in there. And if you need a strengths finder coach, I have a sweet friend, Susan Jacobazzi, who everybody's met except for Martha. And she's just wonderful. And we're going to put a program together. And I'm super excited about that. So I'll give you some more details about that later. But the Happy Body Project is my gig, and the MELT method is another option for you. So we can explore what works for you, okay?
Okay.
Wendy, when does the Healthy Body start? Sorry.
It's going to start a week from Saturday.
Okay,
All right?
perfect.
Bye,
Can't wait.
everybody.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye,
too.
everybody. Nice to
Bye.
maybe we'll see each other again.
I hope so.
Yeah.